Evening, everybody, and welcome to Just a Little Bit, in our special session tonight to dive into the Tales of Xadia, a tabletop RPG set in the world of Dragon Prince and powered by the Cortex system. For tonight's adventure, our party is going to be changing things up and taking on the roles of elves and human adventurers on a quest to find the lost floating city of Anian. Their task is not just to find the abandoned city, but recover a powerful artifact, the Primal Well, that has kept it suspended high above the ground for hundreds of years. An easy job, right? Well, to make things a little more complicated, they only have 12 hours to get in and find the Primal Well before the lost city of Anian crashes into the border mountains, meanwhile juggling the requests of their patron, Feathershaw, a quasi-mysterious moon elf mage who has asked them to take on this particular job. Before we get started, for tonight's adventure, let's meet everybody and the characters they're going to be playing.
Hi, I'm Bandit. I use he, him pronouns. I'll be playing Benetta, a Sunfire elf who uses she, her pronouns.
My name's Chase. I'll be use he, him pronouns. I'll be playing Vinaya, she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Joey. I use they, them pronouns, and I'll be playing Eljal, Moon Shadow Elf Assassin, who uses they, them pronouns as well.
Hi, I'm Tay. I use he, him, or they, them pronouns, and I'll be playing Babukar, who uses he, him pronouns and is a Sunfire elf fire mage.
All the fire. And I am Zach. I use he, him pronouns, and I will be playing the human Dion, who also uses he, him pronouns.
Excellent. And I'm Evan, and I will be the narrator for this evening. I use he, him pronouns, and the characters that I'll be playing will use a variety of pronouns that I'll cover whenever we introduce a new character. So dive into tonight's adventure. For the last several hours, the party has sped suspended above the border mountains of Xadia upon the soft purple glow of magical moonbeams. The moon above casts its light across the small villages, snaking rivers, and reaching mountains below, as Feathershaw's magic carries you to your destination, the lost city of Anian. You are pulled from your contemplation of the scenery unfolding below you as you catch sight of a rocky island, suspended like you in the night sky. And suddenly, suddenly as it appears hanging before you, you feel your stomach flip in a rush as the moonbeam in your eye swerves down towards it with a sudden change in speed. Suddenly so fast you can only see a glimpse of an orderly and idyllic town of stone buildings with a large spire and keep in the very center as it rushes towards you before you realize there's nothing to hold on to but each other, and Feathershaw hasn't explained how landing works. With a loud whoomph, the magic that you drove your flight here swirls around you just before you would come crashing into the stone courtyard at the city's edge. The magic buffers you and cushions your landing so that your boots fall with the soft plat onto the stone below you. With a flare, the spell flies away from you and swirls through the courtyard, casting a violet light across the neat buildings that surround you and lighting up a curiously clean and well-kept courtyard, free of dust and debris. Behind you, high stone walls encircle the city, broken only by graceful archways that are now barred by raised bridges, and then you know that empty air waits beyond. As the magic leaves you, you feel an unusual sense of vertigo as you realize the earth you're standing upon is very gently floating and bobbing in the breeze, and drifting west beneath your feet. As the vertigo fades, a flare of purple moonlight catches your eyes, and you see magic start still swirling around Feathershaw's upraised hand, pulled like a thread to the center of town. Well, that's interesting. As though summoned by your appearance and Moonshaw's words, a small chicken skitters around the corner of one of the buildings, tilting its head in curiosity at the bright alien magic and unusual elf commanding to it, giving a little bob of its head as it bounces forward, a huge plume and puff of feathers making almost like an afro on top of its head, and its beak this weird kind of curved beak where it doesn't meet correctly, instead sort of like meets on either end, and you see it bob towards you as you enter what you thought was an abandoned city. What would you like to do?
Feathershaw, I thought you said this place was abandoned.
And Feathershaw kind of like gives you like the as while still casting the spell, and you can see that they are still kind of moving their hands as though they are trying to like catch the string in front of them of magic and keep it in place.
I care not for moon magic, Bonetta's just still kind of like doubled over a little bit, trying to get rid of the vertigo.
I hardly think a chicken counts as inhabited.
This place is quaint.
My concern is, how did the chicken get here?
It,
And as you
Which
say
came first, the chicken or the island?
as you say that, the chicken sort of gives like a look up at you with that one eye thing that chickens do, turning its tilt to one side and catching you in its gaze. And then it decides like each of you gets a quick peek from its eye before it decides that it likes Babukar the best. And it sort of skitters up to Babukar and looks up and does a little like, but, like it wants something.
Babukar, you've made a friend.
Curious. Animals don't often like me, since I tend to cook them.
As you say that, it sort of like leans back a little bit from you, but continues to stare at you.
Babukar will... Did we... If we're only here for 12 hours, did we bring rations with us of any sort?
Like you would have had like probably each of you your normal adventuring rations, so like a couple of snacks and things, knowing that you have to take a meal where you can get them.
Babukar will go into his bag and pull out something vaguely bread grain-like and break off just like a tiny, tiny bit and hold it out to the chicken.
It like its eyes light up a little bit as you do that, and it sort of hops forward and it snaps it up out of your hands. You see that it's having a hard time getting it because its beak seems to be slightly tilted, but it slowly like chews it on it out of your hand.
Oh, hello, little friend. Babukar will try and pet it.
It lets you. It like leans into it. It's like, like kind of gives a little like a happy shake of its shoulders.
Sister, do we think this is an evil chicken?
I've yet to come across poultry with any particular bent towards evil, dear brother.
You've clearly never met a goose.
How dare you?
I thought you would appreciate that one.
I've been personally victimized. I will say that as you're talking to the chicken and the rest of you are sort of looking around, the city that you see before you is sort of different than the picture that Feathershaw had painted for you of a long abandoned city floating above the sky. The buildings here are still in good repair. The roofs are well kept, the stones seem clean, it's free of dust, debris, or broken buildings. In particular, you notice that several of the buildings have windows that face you that are in decent condition. In fact, from here you can see what looks to be a blacksmith shop just across the way from you outside the courtyard that looks as though it might have still been in use. The fire is this very dull glow, and it looks as though someone has boarded up a lot of the shop itself. Like someone has recently come through and boarded up the windows and things like that.
So, Bonetta would like to kind of figure out where the chicken came from and like be a little friendly with the chicken and be like, so where'd you come from? And see if the chicken responds and just kind of try to trace its path back.
Do you want to just give me a quick check for me as you're trying to like encourage the chicken? Because if memory serves correctly, Bonetta has animal handling, correct?
Correct. Okay, first roll. I'm going to go through. I'm going to take intellect as my attribute.
Mm-hmm.
That seems correct. So that's a D8. Let's see. I'm going to go with truth as my value just because I'm trying to figure out where this chicken came from. And then, I think we're going to take fickle luck on this one because
okay.
Appropriate in this situation. And then my animal handling, I'll take a D6 on that one.
All right, and I will say that since before you actually roll, since it's a test, I roll first, and then you get to see if you can beat it. So I'm gonna say this is fairly easy since this chicken's like definitely into it. Your brother just fed this chicken. Like it doesn't think you're weird or anything like that. I rolled 2d6s and I got a 9. So in your pool, you're gonna want to beat a 9.
Got it. Okay, so I'm gonna roll 2d8 and 2d6s. Okay, not bad. So I need to beat a 9. I'm gonna take the 5 I rolled on my d8, one of my d8s. And the 4 I rolled on one of my d6s. So that's a 9. So right?
Yes. So that would mean you would tie on this one. And I'm gonna say since the chicken's feeling good about you, rather than like make it do a hard point of making you have to beat it, I'll say that's fine. The chicken sort of looks up at you, bobs its head a little bit as you're trying to talk to it. Its head snaps forward to grab the very last of the food in Babukar's hand, and then sort of skitters around Feathershaw like it doesn't want to get too close to them, and then back around to the corner that it came. And what you can see is that the direction it's going is the same direction as the magic that Feathershaw is still dealing with, as their hands are moving and they're sort of trying to coalesce, and it seems like they're trying to keep control of a spell that's pointing them directly towards the center of this town.
So I guess with a tie, maybe the chicken gets a little ahead of me as I kind of run after it to chase the chicken back where it came from.
All right, so you're going to head out. So Bonetta peels off from the rest of you and heads down towards the center of town. And I'll say turning that corner, so you're going in that direction. In the distance, you can hear, seeing the light of Feathershaw's magic still going in that direction, you can start to hear the sound of voices. Like it sounds as though there's shouting coming from a far distance that you can just kind of catch after you leave the courtyard you landed in. To those of you back in the courtyard, Feathershaw's still there casting. Is there anything you would like to do? As Bonetta's kind of just peeled off and gone off in her own direction.
Babukar is gonna follow Bonetta, going, "Sister, wait for me!" And then turn around as he's leaving, go, "Make yourselves useful and find what we're looking for."
I give a look to Vinaya, like, make ourselves useful.
I was gonna say,
Rude.
sure, go enjoy playtime.
Point of order. From where we are, can we hear the voices?
No, you cannot. So none of you have heard these voices. They're only going to be obvious to Bonetta and Babukar at this point. You're still watching Feathershaw cast, but you now have that set expectation as you look around and see all the things that are very out of whack with like a ruined city that's been abandoned for hundreds of years. And Feathershaw there, like kind of pointedly trying not to have a conversation with you, like kind of takes like a half step further away as they continue to cast.
Do we have any insight into, like, was this a moon elf town? Was it a fire elf town at one point?
So you would know a little bit about the town. And Neon, just like its ability to float through the sky, is actually a skywing elf town originally. And it was made able to fly because of the primal well that was at the center of it, which is what why you're here. It's what Feathershaw is looking for. They're hoping to recover this primal well to use the magic to help their people who they know are having some troubles right now.
So then, do we know if, like, they would have had a temple or a city hall somewhere that would have been important?
I don't think Feathershaw has shared any of that information with you just yet.
And we can see the blacksmith from where we're standing, right?
Yeah, so you're in a little courtyard, and there's basically like a street that's just out. That's where Babukar and Bonetta disappeared to. Straight across from you is a blacksmith shop. That looks very much like someone's just walked away from it after boarding it up a little bit, not like it's been abandoned all this time.
I'm going to throw my spear kind of like over my shoulder and kind of give like a and like start walking over to like look at what's going on with blacksmith.
Vinaya, Eljal, anything you'd like to?
Since I'm not getting anything out of Feathershaw, I'm gonna try to climb the nearest building to get a better vantage point. Specifically in the direction of the spire, because if I had a guess, that's where we should be heading.
right, so Featherstall sort of continues to cast as you start to climb the side of the building. I'll say it's not terribly hard to get on top of one of them. There's a like a water barrel nearby that you're able to jump off of and get some leverage to get onto the roof. As you step up, you can see Bonetta and Babukar disappearing down the street. And in the distance, you can see that there are, there seems to be lantern light near the city center. As you know, it is nighttime right now.
So there are lit lanterns in the distance. I don't think we're alone. And then I'll climb down and get to Vinaya, because I don't think we should be alone right now.
I was to say, Vinaya's just gonna kind of wait for Feathershaw to finish. I assume they're still casting something to like finish the spell that'll get us home.
Oh, you know that the spell that gets you home is a different spell. The transportation spells over there doing new moon magic at this point.
So I assume I don't know much about moon magic. It's gonna take a while.
Do you ask that Feathershaw that?
Yeah.
Oh, you all made it here, okay? Correct. There's still five of you, and like pulls up a little like piece of paper from their pocket, and is like five of you.
No, there was
Correct?
6. You left someone behind.
Ooh, well, 5 is enough. 5 is enough. We'll be able to get through the situation with 5 of you. It seems like it'll be fine. I'm sorry, did you say you needed something?
We just, elf town. Where are we likely to find the primal well again?
Well, I believe, based on this spell, that it's somewhere that direction, more towards the center of town. Not surprising. It seems that there was some kind of keep or other, like, fortified location. I imagine that's probably where they're storing it.
More importantly, this town is not as abandoned as we were led to believe.
Oh, is it not?
The blacksmith is lit. There are lanterns in the distance. Babukar and Bonetta are following a chicken.
Ah. I mean, unusual circumstances do happen like that. I'm sure it'll work out just fine. The important thing is we recover the primal well. There's people at home to save. There's starving families that need sustenance. And they continue to cast. Like, it's at this point, they're not interested. They seem like they're not interested in discontinuing their spell casting.
I feel like Vinaya is going to turn and head off towards where Dion went, to the blacksmith.
I will point it down here that the way that they are acting, you get the feeling like this might be a contest if you wanted to convince them to give you their attention.
I feel like I got what I wanted.
Anyone else want to take it, or do we want to move forward with this scene?
I would rather be productive than fight with someone who does not wish to speak.
All right. So you leave Feathershaw behind casting. I will say, Dion, you were going towards the blacksmith shop. Like,
Yep.
when you get closer, you do see that someone has boarded up what looks to be like the main windows to it. The door to the shop itself is open, as though someone has still expecting maybe someone will come to visit. And you can see that just in the distance, the forge seems to have been dampened down, but there's still a few coals still sort of nice and red and cherry.
Sorry, point of order.
Mm-hmm.
Does the fact that we skipped that challenge and just let it happen count as giving in, which rewards people who give in with a plot point?
No, because you didn't try the challenge. You didn't take on the opportunity.
Oh, so you actually... Okay, heard.
Yeah, so giving in is you start, and then you realize there's a possibility you're not going to win, and you let it happen. You just didn't rise to this occasion.
I am going to go to the door that you said was partially open, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of do that thing where I'm going to use my spear to kind of push it open, because I want to be able to, if something came running out, be able to be hey, stop
So
that.
you push the door and it rolls the rest of the way open, and you look around, and sure enough, inside is a nice, what seems to be well-kept blacksmith shop. You can see that there is a little bit of what seems to be the everyday kind of thing a blacksmith would be working on: hinges, cutlery, So a few knives and things, but like nothing terribly exotic as you look through it. Except for you do see that there's a plate of what looks to be older armor sort of set back to the one side of the blacksmith shop. But everything's in good order. Nothing's dusty, dirty. Like this is the kind of person that, especially for a blacksmith shop, has gone to work to make sure that like it remains clean.
So besides the forge being clearly in use recently, do I see anything looking around that would let me know like someone's been here like within the last couple of hours or like the last day or so?
It's easy enough for you to look around and see that someone has left out what looks to be like a breakfast pastry that's half eaten sitting on one of the countertops. So you're definitely seeing signs of habitation. And I would say Vinaya and Ilja, you were heading towards the center of town as well?
No, I was just staying with Dion.
Okay. So you would be seeing this now too as you walk in.
It seems strange that an abandoned city would have pastries.
Yes, my thoughts as well. Clearly, we were led to a city that is quite vibrant still.
And if the city is still alive, I don't think retrieving the primal well is something that is achievable.
Well, and I will say, just so that everybody watching as well will know this, you have been told by Feathershaw that one way or the other, Aenean will be crashing into the mountains in the next 12 hours. The current that carries it is driving it right towards the border mountain. That's why you had to get in and get out.
I wonder if the people here realize that they're gonna crash into a mountain.
Perhaps that's why they left suddenly. I do not know what story to trust.
I will say, as you're saying that, we'll cut to Babukar and Benetta. You are following behind the chicken?
Correct.
The chicken sort of continues to scurry away. It'll like reach the end of the street, turn back and wait for you to get a little bit closer, then scurry to the next one, as though it is smart enough to realize that it's like leading you through this town. And as you finally take another turn, you come out into what looks to be a city square. So there's a nice little bit of garden that's set out here, like a parkland in the middle. And there's the keep in the distance, which is this large keep made out of this smooth, large smooth stone, very rustic feeling. It even has less of a finished feeling than the rest of the city. That's got more like a rural pastoral feeling to it. And this, contrary to your expectations, this city square is full. There are a number of lanterns ringing it that are all lit. And you can see that there's a crowd of people all sort of milling about in front of one of the buildings, or one of the other buildings to the side of the keep itself. And there's a young man at the front there, Sky Elf. So that Sky Elf's like kind of palish blue skin, two horns that curve back along his head, and he's wearing these elaborate ceremonial armor. It has these large, segmented shoulder plates and feathers that come off of it. And he's wearing a coat over it all that is very like crisp and smooth. It's the kind of coat that's never actually seen any kind of like combat or wear besides a little element, so some time in the elements. And you can see he's sort of on the stoop of this building, sort of raising his hands to the crowd. Folks, if you could just please calm down and try to talk one at a time. I realize that things are getting a little crazy here, but we just need to try to maintain the calm. Aenean is very sturdy. We should just be focusing on reinforcing things so that when the strike hits, we will be just fine. And you can see that the crowd is sort of like splitting into these different groups as they sort of like gather together to start rumbling to each other. And mixed in with all of the people, you can see there's a number of chickens like the one that you were following, sort of being treated like pets. Like there's a couple people like holding them and petting them, or like clutching them to themselves in concern. And around everyone's feet are milling the size of probably like little French bulldogs. They're little tiny pigs with these fluffy coat like a sheep and little upturned tusks. They're sort of like milling through the crowd as well, and sort of like following the different elves around as they break into different groups. An older elven woman sort of steps forward on a cane, and she yells to interrupt the elven man just as he's about to continue what he was saying. Next, Rixie fool. We shouldn't be here trying to be polite and have a chat. We're running out of time. If you would just listen, we'd be building those hang gliders I was talking about. We could just fly right out of here. It's part of our heritage. We're sky elves. And then you see as she kind of like leans against her staff, some of the other elves are like, yeah, that's right. Like definitely giving you that, like, we agree. And then you hear across this from that, another woman, younger elven woman chimes in from the thick of the crowd. Nobody's going to argue that Nextrix is a fool, but you're crazy, Ponaris. If you think those stick frames are going to carry anyone to safety and not just break the second you leave the ground. We already have perfectly good bridges that we've built. We just need to move them so when we strike the mountain, we can evacuate in a speedy and orderly fashion. No rings required. People, please, we got to stay calm.
I'm gonna turn to Babacar and just be like, I thought there wasn't supposed to be anyone here.
That's what Feathershaw led us to believe. I'm not so certain so certain our guide was fully truthful in getting us here.
I mean, it seems like these elves have been here quite a while, though can't say I'm incredibly familiar with sky elves.
Is it? It's nighttime?
Yeah, it is nighttime. The moon is out. That is what was necessary for Feathershaw to use their magic.
Sister, it may be time for us to get some answers from these people.
I mean, the old lady seems the most sane to me.
And as you're saying that and talking, I will say we cut back to the rest of the group. You're still like looking around that blacksmith shop. You see Feathershaw kind of like book it past you in like a fast like city walk. Like, I've got somewhere to be. The spell's still held in their hand, but now they're like walking along following it.
Vinaya is gonna like Karen stomp up to them, and like grab their shoulder and turn them around. You're not telling us everything. This place isn't abandoned.
Oh, well, I mean, primary sources are only so reliable. If there's somebody here, this is, I mean, we can't be distracted from the important thing. If we can't bring back the primal well, there's people who are in really serious danger. I'm sure they're perfectly capable, if they've been here all this time, of getting themselves off. They're sky elves, skywing elves after all.
And what if they don't have a way off? What if the primal well is their only way of keeping this island afloat?
Well, I mean, my expectation is we ride this island down and then remove ourselves shortly after. I have my moon magic after all. I'm not suggesting anything untoward. And I'll say, if you want to try to convince them to like stop their spell and take you seriously, this is the point where you would need to make some kind of roll.
Yes. I would like them to stop and focus on the fact that we're not just in a dive in, get treasure, and dive out sort of thing.
Okay.
So I'm going to use my influence.
Okay, influence.
Justice.
All right, because you're trying to like appeal to Feathershaw's better nature.
I guess just the D8 for being a noble, and then D6 for diplomacy.
D6 for diplomacy. Okay. All right, so let's call this. This is a contest. So since you're starting the contest, instead of like a test where I went first, you get to go first.
So I roll my 4 dice and then I pick the best 2, right?
Pick the best 2, and then you want to look at what your other dice, the third dice, is for your effect dice.
So I got a 6 on my D6, and I got a 4 on one of my D8s, so it's a 10.
It's a 10? Okay. And let me look at Feathershaw really quick. So Feathershaw rolls to resist and gets an 11. So at this point, what you can do is, because contest isn't done, it's not a one and odd, so you now get to respond. This is the point where you could choose to give in and just let Feathershaw like ignore you and keep following their spell, or you can continue the contest and make another roll.
I feel like at this point, probably give in and just huff and turn to Dion and say, we should probably head toward the center of town.
Okay.
Maybe the
so at that point,
others found something out.
At that point, I will then say I'm going to hand you a plot point. So count yourself as having 2 plot points since you've given in that contest, and let Feathershaw get what they want. And so Feathershaw will just take off down the street away from you, heading towards the center of town. I assume the rest of you follow?
Elshah will block the door for a moment once Feathershaw has left. I do not know how much I trust our guide. Are you too familiar with the term becoming a ghost in relation to my clan?
I look at Vinaya and just kind of give like a shrug, like, I don't know.
I assume in passing.
It is a form of quite literal making somebody invisible and shunning them from your village. Occasionally it is done under false pretenses, but most often one does not become a ghost without a reason. Feathershaw is a ghost. Meaning, if Feathershaw was to return to the village they were raised in, no one would be able to see them.
So, just elves couldn't see him?
Anybody who participated in the ghosting. So, for example, I can see them because we are from different villages.
So the point you're making is they're not trustworthy.
The point I'm making is that there is something in their past they do not wish to speak of, and the fact that in the story they have said that their village is in trouble and they need this does not add up.
A lot of what they've told us doesn't seem to add up.
We should find the others.
I agree.
So at that point, you take off down the street following Feathershaw, and fairly quickly you see the lights again, Elshah, and you start to hear the sounds of people talking. And I will say, just to like get us back to where we are, at this point, Babukar and Benetta, you're still in like just inside the road that you came down. So you're sort of out of sight of everybody that's in the town square. So they haven't noticed you yet, as they're it's breaking down into just a couple people like rabble fighting and disagreeing with each other, like kind of yelling back and forth at each other and disagreeing as like little pigs and chickens run around between them. And what you notice is that next to the younger man who was trying to get everyone to calm down is a much older sky elf man, mature, a little stout, has like a walking stick that he's leaning against and has these elaborate face tattoos and the same like long curved horns, who seems to be watching this whole thing play out. And he looks a little like concerned, but not as concerned as the rest of the villagers or the city folk, the people of Anian. He seems a little detached from the whole thing. As you're thinking that, you feel Feathershaw brush right past the two of you and basically comes walking into the middle of the square, hands held up, sort of still following the spell that is now much more clearly glowing. And after a moment, you see 2 or 3 of the elves on the edge of the crowd sort of start to turn and look around. In particular, a young skywing elf woman turns and catches sight of it, and you can see her like follow the string back to Feathershaw, and then looks down at the ground and sees the little chicken and goes, "Wiggy!" and bolts through the crowd, like running over to the chicken and goes, "That's where you went. I've been looking everywhere for you. There's a disaster. It's an emergency." And she reaches down and she scoops up the chicken and then seems to notice the rest of you. And it's like, "Oh, wow. Who are you?" And at this point, it's that moment where like the rest of the crowd realizes something is wrong, and suddenly you have the eyes of a small city full of Skywing elves looking at you with confusion and concern.
I put my spear like back on my back so they don't think I'm like charging at them.
I am keeping one eye on Feathershaw the whole time. Like, because if I see them try to slip away, I don't care what's happening here. I'm following them.
Feathershaw is keeping the spell going at this point, and it definitely gets the feeling like they're aware that all these people are around, but they would much rather focus on the spell casting until they realize, oh, like this seems like I got, like they have a moment of like, and then you see them just let the spell dissipate. As soon as they do, as the crowd sort of coming towards you, you hear this low rumble, like half a second before the whole island goes, and like the floor beneath you tilts about 10 degrees. So it's very much like when you're on a boat and the whole boat sort of just wobbles a little bit to one side. And there's like screams go out through the crowd and people are like grabbing each other. Someone's chicken goes flying as it runs away. A little pig slips and falls and it's just on its back waving its legs in the air. And Feathershaw like sort of catches themselves and looks around and goes, oh, well, that was certainly unexpected. And you can see the older man sort of comes forward a little bit. And as Feathershaw's finishing the spell and looks around, catches direct eye contact with the older man. And basically, as the crowd's coming towards you, cuts kind of around the crowd to the older man and says, excuse me, old man, can you take me to the Primal Well immediately? I'm your only hope of leaving here alive, and I have my own people to save, so let's get going. And like kind of cutting into that conversation, the crowd of people come to you, and the little girl's holding the chicken, and you see the young man who was speaking at the front of the crowd has come to the front of the crowd, puts his hand on his shoulder, and is like, welcome to Aenean. What are you doing here?
Whose shoulder did the man put their hand on?
The little girl's who has the chicken, Wiggy.
Standing right in front of us. I'm just gonna like kind of bend down and pet the chicken in the little girl's hand for a second. And just kind of ask her, so how long have you lived here?
Oh, I mean, my entire life. You're from outside of the town, though, aren't you? Like, you're from the ground.
Indeed. I can't say I'm used to being up in the sky like this. Have you spent your whole life this way?
Of course. It is. We're all sky elves. We live in the sky. And then she, like, leans around you for a second and looks at the rest of your party, and her eyes get really big. And she goes, oh, my God, is that a human? I've only seen them in my storybooks. Do they really have 5 fingers?
I'll raise a hand and wave.
And like the whole crowd is like, oh my God, it is a human. Like you definitely hear people in the crowd like, I didn't think humans were so hairy. 5 fingers, that's so weird. What do you do with the extra finger?
Jal is still ignoring most of this and just watching Feathershaw like, you're not getting away from me.
And you can see that Feathershaw is getting a little more agitated, kind of cut off from you, talking to the older man. The older Sky Elf man also looks like his face is kind of clouded up a little bit. And he goes, old man, listen here. I'm not an uneducated fool, and I'm not scared of you. I like kind of pushes Feathershaw like with his hand. I have my own magic. With an opening line like that, I certainly won't help you and your magical mystery cape fly off with the most precious artifact in my home.
Vinay is gonna walk up and kind of like shoulder Feathershaw out of the way. We don't mean to be rude, and I apologize for our companions. And she'll like side-eye attitude. My name is Vinaya. We're here looking for the Primal Well. We thought this place was abandoned. And we're worried that, I'm sure you're aware, in the next couple hours, the island is on a crash course for the mountains.
Yes, unfortunately, I have heard about it. it's something that, as you can see, the town is very concerned about. It's a pleasure to meet you under these unusual circumstances. I'm Nosix. I'm one of the elders here.
Well, Nosix, if we can help assist the evacuation while we're here, we would happily do so in exchange for access to the primal well.
Perhaps we can help each other. He goes, it's unusual circumstances, but welcome to Aenean. And he like waves you a little bit closer, Vinaya, as the rest of the village is still like talking to your friends. And he goes, I'm sorry to distract you from the evacuation. I understand it's very important, but my people are wise, and I know they are destined to figure something out. Please, could I take a desperate moment of your time and we could perhaps discuss things more clearly in the keep, perhaps with your friends? And as he says that, I will say 1, 2, 3, 4. Eljal, you haven't really fought with Feathershaw yet, and you are, a moon elf as well, cutting away from Vinaya. Feathershaw like kind of slowly backs away from the conversation between Vinaya and like looks around for a second, catches your eye, and steps up to you, and like waves you in, and is like, the one with the elaborate face tattoos, Nosix. He claims to want to save the artifact, but he's obsessed with some weird local customs and something about a confession. I don't really know. I didn't, give me a break. There's more important things going on right now. Could you do me a favor and just distract him? If you like, but I suspect perhaps you should just avoid him. The city's moving a little bit quicker since I finished my spell. I may have unsettled things slightly. I suspect we only have about an hour or so before the collision. So we want to make sure we make the most of our time. So I suggest that those of us here who know what's important, leave the villagers to their work, important though it may be, and do the more important thing of finding a way into that keep to get that primal well. If we lose it now, it could mean disaster for Aenean and for my village. I'm sure you understand. We have to pick the right choice.
I do not understand. You let us here believe under the pretense that it had been abandoned for years, only to find it's a thriving village. You claim you want the well for your village, yet you and I both know why that is unlikely. You fought with an elder and lead me to believe that he is stalling you, and then you claim you have destabilized the island with a tracking spell. And yet you want me to help you. Why?
I mean, if you feel that it's against your moral code, I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. But I think you should understand this is important. And I will say, if you want to bare your heart and do all this, I would like you to make a contest to get Feathershaw to share with you what's going on.
Okay, so that's going to be spirit. I'm going to go with devotion.
Okay.
Because I'm opening up myself to the possibility that maybe these sky elves are actually in the right, and that the person who I was working with is actually a liar.
You're more worried about doing the right thing than.
Also, because my truth is terrible. So that's 3d8s.
All right, let me see.
10. With an effect, I have an 8.
They get an 11 in response.
Do they have any hitches?
They do have an opportunity.
I'm going to burn my plot point and activate that opportunity.
All right. And so let me double check exactly what that would allow you to, what that opens up for you, because you don't have any stress yet. So no one needs to buy out stress. So you're going to activate it. When you do so, you can do one of two things. You can step down your stress dice or step up one of your existing assets.
Meaning, turn one of my dice into another one and roll again for this, or...
So typically it would be like your asset. So like if you had been using your staff, you could somehow say your staff got better. In this instance, I would say what you most likely get is a bonus D6 of... I'm going to call it like a bonus D6 of realizing that all these people here in this courtyard make it much more obvious to you and to Feathershaw that like real stuff is going on, and perhaps Feathershaw is doing the wrong thing. Like you just kind of step back for a minute and you wave your arm at all the people here, being like, there are people here right now in danger. And that's very different than like trying to solve a problem for people who aren't in big danger. So you would roll again your dice rolls, but you can add that D6 to your dice roll. See if you can beat the 11.
Got it. 14.
14,
I
yeah.
3 7s.
I will say with you rolling the 3 7s, Feathershaw realizes that you're right. That there's probably more going on here than they were originally planning for, and there is starting to be there's that doubt that maybe there is something more that they should worry about. So I'm going to say that at this point, Feathershaw has been driven by their sense of liberty, that they have to do the right thing to like get themselves free from being ghosted and being in trouble. And you can now pick one of their other values to increase. So you can kind of, because you spoke to them, you can encourage them. So you used your justice. You could say you're trying to appeal to Feathershaw's sense of justice, and you're enhancing their justice. You're essentially convincing them that the their way of thinking is the right way of thinking. Or you could use any
my
of them.
justice, but I'm going to increase their sense of truth.
Truth? Okay, so you're going to say, like, this is an opportunity for you to
This is an opportunity for you to tell the truth and to understand what is happening before you.
Yeah.
And not to have your blinders on.
All right, so you have affected the emotional nature of this catalyst, and they are now they realize that truth is more important to them than they thought it was. And you have won. And so Feathershaw is going to step into you a little bit. And they hem and haw for a minute about how, like, well, I don't know that it would be fatal anyways, because they are prepared for things, but...
It does not look as if they are prepared for anything.
So the truth is, you can probably guess, I'm no longer welcome among my people, but it's worse than that. I was an elder once. I fell from grace, and I lost my status. Now I'm a nobody. I'm a ghost. I'm hoping that if I can bring back the primal well, it won't just redeem me with my family, but will reinstate me to the life I had before, and my service to the people of the Moon Elves. I have to do this. I have to find the primal well. My hope is I can use its magic to help save our crops. My people are starving right now, and I've been ghosted because my previous attempt to fix the problem made things worse.
I understand more than you can know the feelings you are. I have not returned home for fear of the same thing.
If you understand that, you know this is an opportunity for both of us to get some redemption for the things we've done before. And I'm not saying that the people here should be ignored entirely. I'm simply saying that securing the primal well is going to be important for a lot of people, and it won't. We're not going to prevent or undermine their ability to leave. This island is crashing one way or the other. And you get the feeling from this, like I won't make you roll. You get the feeling they're being as sincere as they can in this moment. Like they are not ready to accept that they can't do what they came here to do. But they are acknowledging the fact that like there are other people, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't help them, but we should sort of like stay on mission.
We are on the same side. I am not opposed to helping you do what we came here to do, but to ignore the plight of these people who are floundering like children would go against every fiber of our beings. They are our kin as we are kin.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying we should abandon them, but perhaps we can find a compromise.
Can your moonbeam transport those who cannot fly?
Not this many. It was a stretch to get the all of us here. I could have potentially picked up 2, maybe 3 more at most. But the well offers us opportunities. It is the thing that's holding this entire island up. And I will say we're cut from here as like you're sort of having this heart-to-heart moment, and we'll swing back to the rest of the party, surrounded now by all of the sky elves.
I was going to suggest anyway, like, let's go see if Vinaya has smoothed things over. Her way with words is better than either of ours.
And you can see that she is indeed, she is still talking to Nasik, and the crowd kind of around you is like, please, can you help us? Can you, what brings you here? Did you come with magic? Can you help us? Can you help us evacuate?
I'm sure we can come up with a plan. We wouldn't want to leave anybody stranded here, but it appears that time is of the essence.
And that's why I think, and like the younger elven woman steps up, that's why I think the bridge plan is the best plan. I don't need to build anything. The bridges already exist. When we run into the mountain, we make sure all the bridges are facing the right direction and we get off of it before it falls apart. It's very practical. And the old woman from the back is like kind of scoffs at it, but it's like a dry kind of like, I probably drink whiskey on a regular basis, old lady kind of cough. And she's like, no, we're Skywing elves. I already have several of my gliders built. We could glide right out of here and avoid the entire thing. And then they start to devolve back into like an argument again.
Babukar is done with this and is going to slam his staff down and go Circulus Luminous and create a giant ring of light that is very bright.
Okay. So I will say that this bright light flashes out, and sort of the crowd's like, and we're going to say this is a test. So you are trying to impress upon them that like you are like in control of the situation. So you can look through your list and figure out what your pool is going to be for this. Like, are you like? It sounds like you're showing off your unique powers in magic.
I was thinking intellect.
Okay.
Because
so you're using your intellect to control your magic.
And then mastery would be, I guess, for my own control of magic. The other thing I was thinking was maybe glory if I'm showing off, but
that is one of those things that you kind of have to decide for yourself.
I'm gonna say mastery.
Okay.
And then I'm going to, for distinction, I'm gonna do hot-headed sun mage because this is just pissing me off at this point. So I'm going to downgrade my D8 to a D4 and gain one plot point. And then sun magic and sun magic spell.
Okay, so let's roll all that. It's a test, so I will roll mine first. And this is just general, like the concern. And this is a more challenging one. So I'm rolling 2 D8s and a D6 for the crowd's general mood. So your threshold for success is a 10.
And do I automatically have to pick the top two? I'm trying to remember how this works.
No, you can pick any dice that you want. So if, for example, you roll well on 2 of your dice and it's a 7 and an 8, but the 8 is on a D10 and the 7's on a D8, you can purposely hold onto the bigger dice to be used as an effect dice.
Okay, I am using my D8s for it's a 14.
Okay, so you solidly, like, you fly over it. You're 1 shy of being a heroic success, but you are successful. And then what is your effect dice?
It's a D10.
D10. Okay. So you save off D10. And everyone in the crowd, like, for a minute, they blink against the light. And then the little girl goes, "They're magic. It's sun magic." And the rest of the crowd, like, seems like they're like, "Oh, wow, that's super impressed. Like, a mage? Well, that's what we've been missing. Like, what if magic could help us solve this problem?"
I will say during all of this, Dion was like showing off being human, like to all the little kids, and like, look at my finger, and then like showing up the spear, and all of a sudden it was like bright light, and it was like, oh god. And then Dion quickly realized he's no longer the coolest person in the room.
Oh, no, Dion.
Take a d4 of insecure.
And I will say at that point, the crowd sort of like rushes around Babukar and is like, "Please, like, help us decide. Like, what should we do? Do we use the bridges? Do we try to fly out? Do we fortify things? Like, you obviously came here using magic and have your own powers. Like, what should we do before we crash into the mountain?" And I will say, I'll cut from that, having you done that, to Vinaya, you're with Nosik. And Nosik is sort of looking at the crowd and watching everybody sort of continue to talk amongst themselves. And Nosik leans in and is like, "It seems like your friends are perhaps distracted. Like, as I mentioned, can you join me in the keep as we have a quick conversation?"
Of course, Nasik. I believe we can come to an agreement and formulate a plan that will save the villagers.
I appreciate that. And so I will say at this moment, we have Benetta, Babukar, and Dion surrounded by the now sort of reassured and excited members of town who are kind of like eagerly trying to figure out, like, can you help us solve the problem? And just in the distance, kind of in the shadows a little bit, are Iljal and Feathershaw, sort of Feathershaw still coming to terms with their change of heart as they realize that their original plan probably doesn't work in the face of an entire sound full of people in trouble. And then Nosik leading Vinaya away into the keep. So everyone's kind of splitting off a little bit. And I will say, since it's 8:30, that is where we're going to take our break. We're going to just take a quick 5-minute break, take a breather, and then we'll come back afterwards. For those of you watching, if you're interested, as I mentioned before, we're using the rules from Tales of Xadia to play this game. In particular, we're playing Lost Oasis, their playtest adventure. You can find it right at talesofxadia.com. And you can take a look at the characters we're running tonight. You can peek ahead on the adventure if you want to, or even use it at your own table. But we'll be back in about 5 minutes. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll see you in just a few. everybody, and thank you for waiting for us while we took a little break, stretched our legs. As I mentioned before, we are playing Tales of Xadia, the Dragon Prince RPG tonight. Our adventuring party has come with their Hackaturn patron, Feathershaw, a powerful moon elf mage who has brought them here to the floating city of Aenean, thought abandoned, but surprisingly enough, not abandoned at all. Instead, home to a entire village of Skywing elves who have remained isolated from the surface for hundreds of years. They are aware that their island is about to crash into the mountains, much as the adventurers are. And so the adventurers have offered to step up and offer to help them figure out a plan for evacuation. Meanwhile, Eljal had a heart-to-heart with Feathershaw and convinced Feathershaw that perhaps it was time for them to reassess their plan, and instead of doing what was right for Feathershaw, try to do what was right for everybody. And Vinaya had an opportunity to talk with Nasik, the elder, who has asked Vinaya if they would step away for a moment for a private conversation. So we rejoin our party in Aenean, floating towards the mountains with about an hour left before the collision. An hour which only currently Eljal is aware of.
So Eljal and Feathershaw, having had this conversation, can I see that Vinaya and the Elder are walking away?
Yeah, I'll say you look up and you can see them walking towards the keep right now.
I'm grabbing Feathershaw and we're booking it. Like, you don't have a choice in running, we're running.
Okay. So we're going to split these off into two different threads. We're going to say there's the group of people who are staying with the villagers to talk to them about the evacuation. And there's now this group that's going to be going with Feathershaw into Nasik's keep. And so we're going to start, since we ended with everyone talking to the villagers and with Babakar's impressive light show, we're going to follow Vinaya, Eljal, and Feathershaw as they go into Nasik's area.
And Barnaby.
Let's never forget Barnaby. So as you step into the keep, you are a little surprised to find that it is simple and more rustic than the rest of the rural Aenean. The keep's all stones are dark, flat, and round, harvested from a natural riverbed that you assume the city has long since left behind as it's taken to the air. Nasik kind of leans into you, Vinaya, and is like, I'm curious, can you tell me more about how you managed to come here?
So our companion, the moon elf Feathershaw, took us here on a beam of moonlight is the best way I can describe it.
And how well do you know this Feathershaw? I don't wish to speak ill, but they were rather impolite when we had our conversation earlier.
They've been rather, I wouldn't say deceitful, yet not forthcoming with everything they might know.
Of course. That's understandable. I realize different things brought you here, but I hope that we can talk a little bit more about how we can solve the issues at hand. And at this point, they step through the door of the keep. They kind of push them open and like politely invite you in. And I will say that the reading you're getting off of them is they are surprisingly calm, considering that their island that they've lived on for all these years is about to go crashing into a mountain. The rest of the village has that fervent energy of like a disaster's about to happen, like batten down the hatches, a hurricane's coming, it's a blizzard in Boston kind of energy. Like everything's wrong, get the eggs, get the milk, get home.
French toast alert 5.
French toast alert right now. But he is not. He's kind of cool as a cucumber. As you step into the keep itself, you see that the waiting area is decorated with Aenean artifacts. Portraits of keepers past line the walls, and serve as a historical link to the Skywing of Xadia below. And you can even see that in some places there is cutlery and tableware and like some vases and stuff like that, that with your experience with history and your interest in like studies, you know that this is kind of almost like someone froze in time Skywing culture from a couple hundred years ago. And you see to the left, there's an archway that leads into a dining room that sort of has a pleasant den feel to it. So there's the dining table itself, but there's also like large chairs set around a fire. You can see that there's a warm hearth with the bubbling broth on it and a dinner table with a number of local foods all set across it. and a unusual lute of a weird style hanging on the wall, sort of serving as like an artistic piece. And to the right is a study that's full of more artifacts and knickknacks, as well as a number of books and a large desk. And ahead of you, further down the hallway, is a stairwell that is behind a translucent, glowing blue wall of magic. It's clear, given the context, that the wall is some sort of magical protection that Gnostic watches over or perhaps even controls. But as you step in, Gnostic says, "Thank you for accepting my invitation on behalf of my forefathers. Please sit and listen for just a breath. I have a confession I must make." And as they say that, Eljal and Feathershaw, you just enter the room as Gnostic is saying, "I have a confession to make." And you see Gnostic sort of turn to look at you both with this suspicion and this like narrowing of eyes as they see that Feathershaw is with you.
Eljal goes from like confident, like rushing in, to suddenly nervous and like, "Oh my god, I'm on the spot now, and there's people here." "Oh, we had a talk. Things are good, but remember that tracking spell and moon magic that Feathershaw was doing when we got here? There's only an hour left."
I had my suspicions when I felt the island shift that something was wrong. I would appreciate if you would allow Vinaya and I to have a quick moment to talk. If you would like to take a look at the study, while I do so, perhaps we can think about something we could do about that problem.
Of course. And then Eljal's gonna like elbow Feathershaw, like, apologize.
And you like elbow Feathershaw, and Feathershaw, like very much not getting the social cue, like rubs their side and is like, "Ow, that hurt." And then like after a moment of you making direct eye contact is like, "Oh." And he's like, "Yes, I'm sorry. I have to apologize for my previous behavior. I was a little overwrought. Please accept my apology and thank you for your hospitality. We will indeed step into your study and give you a moment to speak with Vinaya. I understand you have other concerns to think of given the island situation." And like Feathershaw, like it kind of leans over and like catches your arm and kind of gives you a little tug, like, "Come on, let's go," as they step into the study.
As we're walking away, Eljal looks at Vinaya and just like gives them a small nod, like, "Things are good now. Like, things are better."
Are they though?
Except for when we're crashing faster, but
Considering the last time Vinaya and I talked was, "Hey, don't fucking trust Feathershaw." Now it's like I'm not like being coerced. We're good.
Please, Vinaya, if you could take a seat with me. I've prepared a lovely dinner, and we can eat a little bit of the local harvest and drink something special from the local vineyard. It'll be a good way of learning about Aenean's history. I can tell you a bit more about the town and about what's going on.
Vinaya's gonna do like, she's gonna awkwardly take a seat, but as she's sitting, she's gonna be like, "Forgive me, Gnostic, but we are rather pressed for time."
Of course, but I want to make sure you understand the historical significance of everything that's happened here in Aenean, and I will say, if you want to get Gnostic to get to the point, because it feels like he's starting to ramble, that's going to be a contest for that.
I will use my influence, and I guess my mastery.
Okay.
I'll use the fact that I am a herald of the queen, and I'm going to spend one of my plot points that will let me double my influence.
Okay.
And then can I also use my diplomacy, because this is what I do?
Yes. This is absolutely a perfect opportunity for you to use your specialization as well. So altogether, what dice are you rolling?
So I'm rolling 2d10 for my influence, a d8 for my mastery, a d8 for my herald of the queen, and a d6 for my diplomacy.
Okay. I will say I'm going to buy the hitch for your herald of the queen, you're used to dealing with these politicians, so there's that moment where you hesitate to cut him off because you're worried it's going to make him mad. So you're going to roll that as a d4 instead, but you get a plot point.
So my best score is a 13.
13. And do you have any botches?
I do have 1-1.
1-1? Okay. I already hindered you, so I'm going to think about that for a second while I put my dice pool together. So this is Nosik, who is another catalyst, so he has his own dice pool that I'm pulling from.
And I get to roll 6 extra d10 for this bug.
I mean, normally I would allow it, but I don't know that we can.
Does Cortex not have a system for Barnaby points?
He does not have a system for Barnaby points currently, but Cortex is very modular, so I feel like we could build our own.
I feel like I just get to add an asset that is just Barnaby to all of my rolls.
I mean, he's basically one of those sheep pigs.
It's a part.
He is basically one of those sheep pigs. And what was your total?
My best score is a 13. That's math, right? 8 and 5, 13. Yes.
You beat it. You successfully convinced him, and he goes, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Of course, there is more pressing matters. I do drawn on sometimes. I live alone, and I forget the pleasure of company."
But I will give like that very appropriate, noble bow and nod, and give like I'd be happy to listen to your entire history at some point. It's rather fascinating, but I don't believe that now is the right time.
Of course, I have to make it a confession. And he picks up the glass and takes a little sip from one of the goblets sitting on the table. I knew this was coming for quite a while. As the elder here, it's my responsibility to be aware of the magics, and I myself am an accomplished guy mage. It's what's caused me to become emotionally distant from my people. There wasn't a lot I could do to prevent it, so instead I've been rambling on and on because this is my very last meal I'll be having in my home, and I do apologize. I'm afraid that the well needs a keeper, and you see, because of its power, to touch it without guidance would likely destroy somebody. And I myself have taken an oath to never touch it, or I shall crumble into dust even if I dare to lay a finger on it. And you can see he sort of cuts in a little bit and sort of wraps his arms around himself and think about it. I wouldn't worry too much. I've studied this inevitability for years. I'm certain we have about an hour to get off the island after it crashes. So even though we will crash in the next hour, I expect it will take at least that long for it to fall apart. That should give the townsfolk the time they need to get out. But I'm hoping I can only take a few minutes of your time to speak about another matter, a serious one, about my responsibilities for the primal well and the future of what will happen with it. And he gets just to dive into the story as we cut from that scene, and we cut over to your friends. Actually, well, you know what? I will say this, since we'll cut over to Eljal and Feathershaw together in the study. And Feathershaw walks in, and there's that moment where, as an academic, you can see them ooh, there's books that haven't been seen for hundreds of years and that haven't changed. So the history potentially is fresher. And then also all the artifacts, and they sort of push their arm around, look around the room. But as they see that Nosik is now with Vinaya in the other room, you can see Feathershaw steps just out of line of sight from the door and calls up that same spell really quickly. And you see that same little tremble of moon magic pointing towards where that door was that you saw the blue aura of light in front of, and pointing down from it. And Feathershaw goes, I must admit, we are very close to that source of primal magic. The primal well is in here.
Give Vinaya a moment. I have faith in her abilities.
Of course.
Also, I'm attempting to listen to their conversation, so...
I mean, We are alone in a study full of information. Perhaps we could find something useful in here if we took a moment to look around.
I'm not opposed.
So for this test, I want you to give, this is a fairly easy test as you're looking around the study for anything like out of place or unusual. I'm going to roll. I got 2 1s, so I have botched terribly.
Luckily, I have no plot points to do anything with that.
Score.
The island just starts floating again.
But
And
does Feathershall have points to use against?
That's a different story. I will say that with that, you and Feathershall both sort of like comically, Feathershall like leans over so they're looking through the door, being like, "No, we're good, we're clear," and then starts to like look around the room, and fairly quickly, they find that there is a strange gargoyle clinging to the ceiling, and it has its long tongue like hanging down. It's sort of set between 2 of the bookshelves with the tongue hanging down, and Feathershall is like, "Ugh, gruesome," and reaches up and grabs the tongue, and as they pull it just a little bit, the bookcase slides open, revealing a stairwell below. Dun-dun-dun-dun. And there is a stairwell that seems to lead down into the darkness. And there's a little torch like flickering at the top of it. And Feathershall leans over to you and goes, "We've come so far already. It would be a shame to stop now."
I'm gonna get as close to the doorway as I can. Can I hear what they're talking about?
And I will say you're hearing them having that conversation where he admits that he like knows that something wrong is happening.
So can I hear that it's going well, or did I hear like the warning at all?
You hear him basically being like, "You're right. I should tell you more. Like, let me give you some more information about what's been happening here." Like, they're having a heart to heart, and it sounds good. Like, Vinaya seems to have convinced him that he needs to take her seriously.
It's going well in there.
And then Feathershall like leans into you and is like, "We just go down and have a quick look. Time is of the essence. They're distracted. It's an important conversation. We'll just take a peek."
I'm so torn because I know it's not a good idea, but also I want to do the thing.
Hey, I mean, you play role-playing games to do things, right?
So, just a quick look. Anything more?
And Feathershall's like,
Dump their staff on the ground a moment.
Of course. You're what?
It'll be like anything more, sword staff comes out.
Yeah. So the both of you head down the stairwell, and it's fairly short. It basically takes you down like 1 level of the building, you think. And you find a very surprising and unexpected thing. It seems to be some kind of secret layer. Vaulted ceilings above are kind of has some cobwebs hanging from the top of it, so it seems like this room is slightly disused. But in front of you are a number of mummified skywing elves, wrapped in some sort of strange sky or earth magic, their faces frozen in horror, and the rest of their bodies twisted like swirls of fiberglass and sparkling marble. They seem trapped in stasis, frozen and not quite dead. But thankfully, in such a magically solid state, they might very well survive a plunge into the mountainside when the city collapses, though only the heavens know how to cure them. As you look down, and there's just several frozen in terror, very like Medusa's victims-esque, stacked like frozen skywing elves.
Aljal is gonna flick their staff a little bit so the blades come out of it.
And as you do that, you hear Feathershall from right behind you go, "How unexpected." And we'll cut from that scene there, and we'll head back
just
over
down in the corpse room.
Just normal stuff that happens in normal cities.
Secret corpse room.
And we'll cut back over to the party who is currently with the villagers.
After Babukar like does his little light spell and everyone's attention on him, Bonetta's just gonna little like playfully poke him and be like, "Well, you performed your magic, brother. Now you have their attention. What are you gonna do with it?"
That was not quite my intention. And then he'll turn up and go, "Who among you has the power of flight?"
And you look around and you see blank expressions.
The chickens.
The chickens. And one of a young woman, also Sky Elf, does step forward and she goes, unfortunately, Gnostics is one of the few magic users in town. I'm sort of his apprentice, and I know a bit of sky magic, but most of us, we're the kind of skywing elves that don't have wings.
Well, what about that old lady's plan? She seemed to have some sort of idea for creating wings. That seemed like a good plan.
And she like, you see her like push through the crowd. She like pushes some people aside, and she goes, "I like the cut of your jib." She goes, "This one's got the right idea. My plan is foolproof." And she goes, "Herman." And then you see another elf step up and picks up one of the pigs, and the pig is like strapped into a little like into a little hang glider that's like sized for the pig. She goes, "These are our hang gliders. The plan is we build a couple and we fly people down to the ground before we even crash." She goes, "This is our working model." And the pig like just kind of turns to look at you and gives this like happiest little snort, like,
"I'm not okay."
Can I look? Can I look to see if I think it's gonna fall apart if it flies in the sky?
So you want to like assess if you think it's going to be any good?
Yes.
You know what? Yeah, I'll give you like a quick. I'll say you don't know a ton about stuff, so it's a little bit challenging. But I'll let you.
I do have a crafting specialty.
I will say, like, if you want to roll, put your dice pool together, and we'll see it.
I'm gonna use. Sorry,
I was just gonna say, Bonetta's just like doing that thing that often happens with the super stoic characters who finds an adorable animal, and it's just like, oh, and like right up in the little pig's face, and like, "Look at you, you have wings, don't you?"
And this pig is ecstatic. It like nuzzles up against you, and like I said, it has the little tusk, and like it has a short furry coat, like very much like a sheep's coat. And as you get up to it, it does a little like, and like has a happy little dance as you're petting it. And the old woman is like, "See, this here's BB. She's very experienced with flight. We used her as our test subject. We've had only successes."
Of course you have.
And the challenge for this is going to be a 6.
Okay, so I'm using intellect, truth. I'm hindering my simplicity is the best solution, and then crafting. Because this is not directly related to the people, I don't use the effect die I had, right?
Not yet, no.
I did get 1/1.
Okay.
And then
I feel like I'm obligated to buy that hitch at this point then.
okay, what how does that affect my roll?
I'm gonna say you are going to gain a D6 of what's the most fitting?
Insecure as he realizes his sister loves this pig more than him.
Anger as he realizes his sister loves his pig more than him.
You are going to gain a D6 of fear as you realize that like this entire village is relying on you. And this is like a lot of pressure.
Okay. Do I...
Yeah. And you get, so.
Do I roll that now? Do I use that now?
No,
No.
this is the thing that just happened. It exists on you as a person now.
Okay. So I got a 9, and my effect dice for that is a D6.
Okay, so the effect dice isn't really necessary in this one since you're not affecting somebody else or like doing anything.
Right.
Examining it, you realize that it could work. Like the big question is going to be: is there enough of them? Can you get them built in time? But like the design's okay. Like Skywing elves have a deep interest in aeronautics and design, and it's totally possible you could do it.
I think the pig might not die if they were to try this.
How many of these do you have ready to go, though? Time is of the essence.
Oh shit, they don't know they only have an hour.
Yeah, we don't know that.
There's a flaw in my plan.
Let me
Can we
double-check
get everyone
really quick?
connected
guess
to
I
these
would-
wings in the next 12 hours?
I did not think that the wings was the first choice you're going to make, so let me just double check. So Noko, the magic user who spoke up, pulls another woman out who is also a Skywing elf and says, "Well, Sistress and I can probably make it happen. Actually, there are ancient imbuements of sky magic on physical material that might just work, so we might be able to make it happen. We would just need some help making enough of them, but we have to make sure that that's what we want to do."
I mean, I'm not accustomed to floating through the sky, much less on a city in a rock floating in the sky, but it seems to me that if you're already in the sky, wings are the obvious solution for travel, are they not? And Bonetta will kind of look at the two sky mages.
It seems like a good choice. It would help us get people off before we start crashing into the mountain, I suppose. So at that point, what I'm gonna need is we're having a challenge pool, which is basically like, how are you gonna get all these people off this place in time? And so we're going to say the challenge pool is 4d8. Because it is challenging, as in it's 2d8s, and it has a medium length, which adds another 2 dice. Up to 4 of you can participate. And what happens with a challenge, it's a little bit different from a test or a contest. I will roll the first round of the challenge, and then each of you will get a turn against that challenge rating. If you beat what I roll, you have an opportunity to either remove dice from the challenge pool or decrease their size. But at the end of that challenge, that pool gets to roll against you and inflict basically conditions on you if you don't manage it well. So I'm going to roll my dice first. That's going to just be the 4d8. I have an opportunity that came up. So, for example, if you wanted to buy out of that fear, this is an opportunity for you to buy it down. If you want to spend a plot point.
That would count as a plot point?
Yep.
Yeah, I will buy.
Because you've been hoarding plot points, if memory serves.
I do have 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll buy the D6 down to a D4.
Okay.
And so I know we have to keep track of what we bought it down from.
Don't worry about it, because we're not leveling up your characters. You don't have rules for it right now. In the future, bringing down your stress would be how you later buy enhancements for your character, how you level up, how you do other things, but we're not getting to that in the playtest, so we're just gonna smooth on through. Keep it simple.
So it doesn't really matter in what particular order that we go through for.
No. So what will happen is one of you will go to challenge it, and then each of you will follow up. And you get to choose who goes next.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'll let you know that I have rolled a 7 and an 8 on my D8s. So that is a 15 is the difficulty. So I hope you've been saving them plot points, because you just might need them.
So I think, Bonetta has kind of bought into this whole wing construction plan, especially with the magic users kind of offering their support. Bonetta's used to seeing her brother kind of pull things out with some magic. So she's like, oh yeah, if the mages are into it, this is a good plan. So I think she's kind of trying to like rally everyone together to get this plan in motion. So I'm going to say she's going to use her intellect, which is a D8, her devotion, because she's now kind of devoted to these people. I'm going to take... Oh, gee. Well, I guess I'll take my fickle luck for another D8. And then can I use my strategy specialty, as I'm picturing a very Sokka-esque, like, I'm trying to plan out how to like organize these people to be most efficient in their assembly line?
I'll allow it.
Excellent. Oh no. So there was 1 in there.
Okay.
So that's what do I have to beat again?
The threshold for you is a 15.
Oh.
What'd you
get?
get?
I can do a 10.
So if you have any other dice in that pool, you can potentially buy up from that. You could buy one for a plot point, like if there was a 5 or 6 in there somewhere.
Unfortunately, my only other die is a 3.
Yeah,
it might
so
still be worth it, so that way it's not a heroic loss.
Luckily, there isn't heroic losses. There's only heroic victories.
Never mind.
Yeah. But essentially what happens is you try to get people organized, but everyone's still sort of like so jazzed up, you're not really having very much effect, like getting people to focus or like shoulder in.
That's what I got. I'm trying.
And then let's go on to you can tell who would go next after you.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna... well, I think at this point, I'm like, okay, I know me and Bubakar are not the best at corralling people. So I'm gonna pass it on to Diane.
Yeah. I'm gonna motivate everyone. We're gonna do this. We got this.
You have 5 fingers. You can
I have
build
5
so many
fingers.
hang gliders.
I can build. Yeah, I'm so much better at hang glider building. So
if only they knew.
So all right. I need to pick an ability or an attribute. I think I would go with spirit, like determination and perseverance, given our current situation. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do my devotion to ensuring that these people are safe, and then never back down from my distinction. But I can't use my specialties because I'm only good at fighting.
And agriculture.
I could farm.
Fair.
No, my 2 highest, I got a 13.
Do you have a 3 in there that you could buy?
I do have a 3.
So if you spend a plot point, you could buy the 3 and make it a 16.
Oh yeah, I haven't spent my plot points. So I will buy that 3 and make it a 16.
All right, so you have. And is there any effect dice left over?
No, I only had 3 die.
Okay. So in that instance, you have decreased one of the dice, I will say, because you don't have an effect die that's bigger than it. So now you're rolling against 3 d8s and a d6. Oh, yeah, okay. So now you have decreased the dice. You have decreased the dice pool down.
I feel like
And
you
now
see Benetta getting very like discouraged with trying to organize the people, so it's just like
And now
rallying her.
Babukar, it's your turn.
Okay. We're doing intelligence because Babukar is trying to like think this through from the not from the like corralling people perspective, but from the like what shit do we need to get done in what order. We're gonna do I'm gonna say justice because I don't see this much for Babukar as devotion necessarily to like the people, but justice with him caring like what's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do simplicity is the best solution, but I'm not knocking it down.
Okay.
Can you spend more than one plot point in a turn?
Yeah, you can. If you have them, you can burn them. I will say, don't forget that you have the D10 effect dice from having gotten the villagers on your side.
Oh, okay. So I'm using the D10 effect dice. And I'm gonna yeah, I'm gonna roll those. I probably can't use my crafting at this point, or I wasn't sure because we're like making the thing.
Use your crafting. No, it's still relevant. Yeah, you can absolutely use your crafting.
Okay. And I'm gonna go. I'm gonna spend a plot point.
Okay.
To add an extra dice.
Okay.
Because I was at 15. And I'm going to add an extra dice to make it a 21.
So you're gonna make it a critical. You're gonna make it a heroic success.
Yes.
And do you have any effect dice? Do you have any effect dice left after that?
I do. I have a D10.
Ooh. So let's see. As a heroic success, since you beat the difficulty by more than 5, you not only get what you want, your roll produces an unexpected beneficial result. So, like, describe for me, what did you do to inspire that level of excitement amongst the townfolk?
I think Babukar was probably like, okay, well, this is how we can use this, and like grabbed the pig that has the glider on it, and probably was like, so if we throw them at this angle, we can like safely, given the aerodynamics of this, land them. He's gonna throw the pig.
And you see BB the pig like drifts across the thing, its little legs kicking in the air.
And like as the pig's flying, Babukar's like, the pig will land right there if we've calculated it correctly.
And sure enough, the pig right where you said.
And then, see?
All right. So I will say with that, you get rid of the D6. That is gone. And I say you also get rid of a D8, because with your heroic success, you now have a working model that you're going to build off of. The mages that you're working with are able to enchant it so that they can make copies of it without having to produce as much of a... they don't have to make them as sturdy, because the magic will solve the problem of them being sturdy, which means you can build faster now.
like in under an hour.
Yeah, like in under an hour. And so they've begun the manufacturing. At this point, it is
I was so worried I fucked everything up.
it is its turn. So they're going to get an opportunity. It's going to get an opportunity to kind of like bounce back at you.
Quick clarifying question.
Yeah.
Do I add the effect size D10 I just got to the D10 I already had, or because I spent the D10 I already had on this one, I don't keep both?
You can keep the effect dice.
Ah.
Because that is persisting through the scene, that you have the trust and like the guide, the aid of the people. I will say also keep in mind that as one of the things you can use your plot points on is to give somebody else your asset. Like give someone else the benefit. So just if it's relevant in the future. And I will say the dice pool is going to choose to target Bonetta for this one, since Bonetta had the tough time with the villagers. It doesn't have, so it's just going to inflict a D6 on you of angry, because you are just feeling really like overwhelmed and frustrated, and like, why couldn't you just get through to the villagers? Like, what was the problem? So you do have anger.
Bonetta's definitely that teacher who's like, I explained it once. If you don't understand it, that's your problem. Like, come on, keep up, people. So she's just like, come on, like, obviously.
So we're going to the next round. I have rolled the challenge pool. It was 2d8s, and I've rolled 2 1s. So it is up to the party to figure out how they want to handle the 2 1s I just rolled. I will say that Babukar has done such an awesome job, like getting all the people pumped up. You have a working model. Like anytime people doubt you, Babukar is like, this pig, and like tosses the pig and watches the BB float around the thing. The mages are working pretty fast now. They've realized that like they can keep keep everything going. With the 2 1s, you have indeed opened up a bunch of opportunities, as Melly said in the chat. And also welcome to the chat. Welcome to the show. This is your opportunity. With those of you with stress, you can use these opportunities to buy out of your stress, or to help pick up the resources we talked about before.
Well, I don't have any stress, so if anyone would like to decrease their stress.
I would love to get rid of my afraid complete. Wait, D4 would go down. Just get rid of it completely, then, right?
Yep. If you do it on your D4, you can get rid of it completely.
I will also spend a plot point to buy down. Mine was a D6 of angry, right?
Yes. And let me just double check, because I want to be sure that it would take you down to the D4, not to the... I mean, right. If stress could be worked out this simply, that would be so good. Spending plot point. So, sorry, give me one moment.
I'm going to need way more plot points than the one we started with for that.
Yeah, so you can step down a stress or step up an asset. And so you're both choosing to step down your stress. So the D4 will go away, the D6 will become a D4.
And so that was us spending a plot point, or the 2 hitches, or your 2 1s?
That's you buying the opportunity from my 2 1s. So you have to spend a plot point to make it happen, because you're basically, the opportunity is there, you buy into it.
So like in this instance, Bonetta, seeing that things are going so well and seeing how well Babukar did, is like taking that opportunity to work through her own anger and frustration at herself for being easily angered by these people. And so she's like reflecting on Babukar and like, okay, well, I'm proud of him. That helps me like calm down my anger.
And
I will definitely say, as Melly was mentioning in the chat just now, I've rolled very low in this dice pool. This is an excellent time to think about if you want to take the gamble of taking hinders on yourself to like get you some plot points back, since you've spent quite a few.
Oh, that's what I've been doing.
But like, this is the reason why you want to get all those sweet points stacked up, so that you can buy yourself back out when you get yourself into trouble. I will say, Bonetta, do you want to lead us off on this challenge again?
Sure, yeah. With my renewed vigor, I'm gonna see what I can do here. At this point, I feel like we're more into kind of the crafting stage. So can I use strength this time as we're just like physically getting shit done?
Okay, so you're trying to like speed up the process by which people are building these hang gliders.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I use strength. I think we'll go with mastery on that one. I'm going to use Fickle Luck and hinder it down to a D4 and get another plot point. Thank you for the advice, Millie. I assume probably not so much strategy this time. Is there any way I can use my Sunforge blade as an asset in this kind of construction business? Or is this might be a little too delicate for a Sunforge blade?
What would your argument be? Like, how do you envision you're using a Sunforge blade to somehow make these hang gliders out of like palm fronds and...
Yeah, well, I'm assuming, that we're working with large, long pieces of lumber and wood. And so rather than like a little saw blade back and forth where they have to like hack through all this lumber, Bonetta's just whipping out the Sunforge blade and like swing and just like chopping down all this lumber super fast.
Wait, make that sound effect again so I can clip it.
Swing! Swing!
Well, you know what? It's clever. It's interesting use of your asset. I'll allow it.
Yay! Okay. So I've got
canonically, that's
3d8s.
what your sword sounds like now. Always.
I'm okay with that. I'll take it. If I get to use it, I'll take it. Okay, didn't get any ones. So we're gonna take. Okay, I'm gonna take the 5 and the. I'm gonna take. Yep. 5 and the 3 for 8 on my result, meaning it's a heroic success.
It is a heroic success. And I'm sorry, you were saying that you didn't have any ones?
No ones.
Okay, cool.
No ones. And then, do I get an effect die on this one? Sorry, still hazy on that.
Yeah, so you would be able to apply an effect dice. And the effect dice helps you decide if you get rid of something or not. And yeah, heroic success, like, get it. This is the time.
Yeah. So, renewed vigor. Bonetta's just swinging away at that lumber. So I have a D8 of effect.
Yeah. So sure enough, like as you're swinging away, you're chopping that lumber down as fast as the townsfolk can carry it away from you towards where Babukar is working with the mages to like set up these hang gliders with Dion's help. And like you are taking it what was going to be work of a good chunk of time and like turning it into work of a couple of minutes. And what was your effect dice that you had?
It was a D8.
D8? Yeah. So I will say with that, you managed to get rid of one of the dice in the pool because you had a heroic success. So I'll say I escalated a little bit so you can throw it right out of there. You're feeling real great about this whole situation. You went from being really angry to feeling really good about yourself.
That's how you work out anger, physical activity.
And I will say that you realize that the townsfolk are now also behind you. And so for the rest of the scene, while it would be relevant, you also have the asset that your brother had with the townsfolk. Like, they're like, oh, you're Babukar's sister? No wonder you're so cool. And that is the bonus of your heroic success. And
usually I'm the cool one.
Who would you like to have go next to take on the challenge pool?
We'll pass it on to Babukar.
Okay. I'm doing intellect, justice. Simplicity is the best solution, but I'm hindering it.
Okay, you're hindering your own simplicity.
Down to a D4 because I'm like so into this now that I'm like starting to make it a little more complicated, so I'm hindering my simplicity.
Okay, so you're starting to just take a moment of being like, well, I'm making these hang gliders. I could make them better though.
And then I am crafting still.
Okay. Yeah, no, crafting is still totally relevant. There's a reason why your characters have a weird cross-section of specialties.
And so I have 2d10s effect die now?
2d10s of dice that you can add to your pool. You do not have those as like effect dice.
Yes,
unless you roll them successfully.
Sorry,
yeah.
that's what I meant. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been stacking up those good results.
I got 1-1.
Okay. I am gonna buy that to turn you're exhausted, is what I'm buying up.
Is that a d6 of exhaustion?
D6 of exhaustion. Basically, you've been working so furiously and putting so much extra work into things that you were like, I feel worn out.
And my highest comes to a 14 with a d10 effect size still left over.
Okay, so your highest. So with a 14, you get a heroic success, no problem whatsoever, and you kill it. You murder this challenge. I will say
you are the winner of this week's challenge.
Yeah, you're the winner of this week's challenge. Shantae, you stay. As a result of the hitch, you are wiped out. Like, you put so much effort into this, and you kind of reached that moment where like you are helping these people, and it was really rewarding. And you're kind of feeling the pressure of like this was your moment to shine, to help these people out after having to deal with Feather Shawl and their kind of like wishy-washy answers. Side effect, you feel exhausted. You got to roll all those awesome dice. The downside of rolling all those dice is it increases your chance that one of them might be a 1, and so I got you a little exhaustion. But you as a party, you have successfully defeated this challenge. So you have helped construct the hang gliders so that the people of the city will be able to hang glide their way out of here.
Does this include for the chickens and the pigs?
I say,
Bonetta would probably make sure that there was like a harness on each hang glider, so each elf could also carry an animal.
So yeah, I will say that you've had with this excellent heroic success you have enough time to make sure that everyone who's riding in a hang glider could carry one of their chickens or pigs, and so everyone has to find like an evacuation buddy as a chicken or a pig.
Because let's face it, at the end of the day, we were trying to get the pigs and the chickens out. The elves were just like, oh yeah, I guess we should save them too.
Why do y'all get cute pigs and hang gliders and I get the secret corpse room?
Because you chose to go into the secret corpse room.
You chose to play the Moon Elf Rogue. What did you expect?
Not a
You're
secret
an
corpse
assassin.
room.
All right, and so I will say you've successfully done that. You're with the villagers. Everyone's feeling really awesome. You are in the secret corpse room, and just you and Feathershaw are looking at each other over this small pile of frozen, in horror, Skywing elves. And you are, welcome to Vinaya. You are sitting down with a warm meal between the two of you as Gnostic kind of pours out to you that they were aware that the island was going to have a collision, and things were definitely not going the way that they'd hoped that they would go. But, maybe you can help them with something. There's definitely something that they want to confess to you. But the vibe you're getting from them is, as much as they want to confess, whatever secret they've been keeping for so long now that you're not sure what else could happen.
I suppose this is my chance to prod him a bit.
If you would like to, if you wanted to convince him to perhaps give up some of his secrets, we could make that a contest.
I mean, so I remember him saying he was if he touched the primal well, he would crumble to dust.
Yeah, he has sworn an oath that he would not touch the primal well, and if he breaks that promise, he risks crumbling to dust.
So, do you plan on touching the primal well? Is that part of your plan to save the town?
No, that is not part of my plan. I've made my oath, but perhaps we can save a little bit of the history of our people as we evacuate, and perhaps you can help me save the well.
I believe that would align with all of our goals.
All right, so if you want to get him, you can tell that he's being a little cagey. There's something about him that he's hiding something, and he's worried that if he tells you, it might not be great.
So she'll like reach across the table and like gently place her hand on his and say, "These may be trying times, but I can assure you we'll all make it through to the other side okay."
All right. So since that's the case, I would love for you to make me a contest using whatever you think would be appropriate. What the suggestion would be potentially truth if you're trying to.
So I'm going to
convince
use
him.
my influence.
Okay.
I'm going to use my truth because I want to get to the bottom of all this. I will again use my Herald of the Queen D8, and I will orate. Since I'm using my influence, I'll spend a plot point and double it. And I will use my diplomacy again.
So you're going to burn your plot point. You're going to double. You're going to use your diplomacy. Roll it for me, because you're going to take this moment of rolling since it's a contest.
So 3d8s or 3d10s, a d8 and a d6, and I will take 13 is what I rolled as my best.
13 is your best? Okay,
Yes.
Let me find what I need for Gnostics.
And no,
So he's
no ones.
No ones? Okay, cool. Thank you for your follow-up question. Or follow-up answer. I'm going to say, as a catalyst, I'm going to roll his d8 for his catalyst. As the keeper of the his dark secrets, I'm going to roll another d8. This is his truth. And his stewardship. So what did you get as your result?
13.
Ooh, you know what? He got a 12. But you know what? He really kind of wants to tell you the truth, though. I don't think he would use plot points to prevent you from knowing the truth. Like this is something that's been burning inside of him for a while that he wants to know. With your success, he gives a sigh and he reveals to you the truth is, I've never tried to touch the well. I know the consequences of what might happen, but I have convinced a number of the residents of Inian to try to touch the primal well for me in order to make a set of magical armor that would allow somebody to touch the primal well without being destroyed by or just being frozen by its magic. The benefit is, I've now been able to create the Cuirass of Vuxen. The local blacksmith was able to help me make a magical armor that will allow someone to hold the primal well and remove it from where it sits. Unfortunately, to get there took a great deal of suffering. A number of the citizens who helped me lie frozen beneath our feet by magic that I don't know how to reverse. It weighs on me a great deal, but I did what I had to do for my job as the keeper. And I will say at that moment, just because Feathershaw bursts into the room in this flare of the giant feathers. Like, there are bodies in the basement.
Eljel's behind her, like, sword out, like, ready to fight.
I feel like Fanaya just does that, like, cold, holds her hand up in front of them and, like, quiet peasants. And she goes, I think it'd be best, Gnostics, if you showed us what you were talking about. And
He stands up and says, "You and your companions are truly saviors for me. Not just for this reason, but for finally helping me to reveal what was concerning me so much. One of you, wearing this chest plate I commissioned, could deliver the primal well from Aenean and provide safety for our people." And like looks to Feathershaw as Feathershaw bursts in and is like, "You are right. I've done dark things to pursue my interest in the well, but something has happened. Something we have to take seriously." And as he says that, the entire room gives this intense cracking shudder, and you hear this of stone on stone, and you feel the whole room kind of like underneath your feet as you realize that the island of Aenean has crashed. Those of you in the courtyard or the town square helping the villagers, you are starting to put like the finishing touches on the last of the hang gliders that you need, just as the crash impact. And you said it's kind of sends people like falling to the ground. Several of the pigs go rolling in the street, like squealing their little arms and legs, kicking. The chickens kind of fluttering around, and it's just chaos for a moment. And for a second, everything settles, and you have that moment of like, okay, everything's all right. Everything's going to be fine. You start to slowly get back to your feet, and then the floor beneath you does like when the elevator kind of drops for you for a second, and you skid down just a couple of inches, but you feel it like intensely in your guts, and then you hit the ground again, and in the distance, you hear this intense sound of crashing rock followed by this loud insectile roar. And that's where we're going to end tonight.
No!
Insectile!
I need to know what happens next.
Save the chickens and the pigs.
I still don't know what the corpses are.
Everyone to the lifeboats, chickens and pigs first.
I was about ready to start picking people up, putting a hang glider on them, and just chucking them off the side of the city.
I love the picture of the pig with the hang glider that's now in the stream.
You're welcome.
Yeah, babe, you did a great job with that one.
Yes. Shout out to Chase for designing this layout. It is amazing.
All right, well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. I'm really glad you could stop in and have some fun with us as we delve into the Lost Oasis and the Tales of Xadia. It was really great to have you all join. It's been a lot of fun. As I mentioned before, but I'll mention it again, Tales of Xadia is in playtest right now, so if you want to play the Lost Oasis and have your own heart-to-hearts with Feathershaw and Gnostic and discover what happens with your group, you can find it at talesofxadia.com. The awesome art that we used tonight is also all from it, so like all of the visual assets we were using, besides the hang gliding pig, we have to give credit where credit is due, come from the book. So I definitely give you a recommendation for it. We're going to be playing the second part, and depending on how fast we can go through it, we'll see if it's the last part next Wednesday at 7:30 again, if you'd like to join us. Like I said, thank you all for joining us tonight, and stay safe out there.